Jeff, thank you very, very much indeed. And it is amazing when you look at the country and you think that all these traditions, they all lie dormant until they're needed, and everybody's got the right paraphernalia, the clothes, everything to wear.
They're well rehearsed, you know. That's the British military showing off their best in many of these, and all the bands and everything. Just the colours of the flag. Sorry, I'm still going. I'm just, you know, it's pouring out of me this morning. But just look at the papers this morning. They're all adorned with this stunning sort of mustard and scarlet combination. It really leaps out, doesn't it?
I think it's got a name, that flag.
It's called the Royal Standard.
The mustard and scarlet.
No, I'm just talking about the colours popping and how wonderful.
No, it is amazing. Dawn Neeson and Christopher Biggins are with us to review the papers. And guys, at times like this, and Isabel was effusing about how well we do all of this, and you get these calls for people talking about cutting back the monarchy. I put it to you, we would be a much duller, literally, as Isabel was saying, without the colours and things, we'd be a much duller country, surely, without all of this to turn to.
I think the pomp and ceremony is something we do incredibly well, and you know, I get the whole cost of living crisis, but I think seeing all the papers this morning and watching the coverage over the weekend, certainly on GBNEWS in particular, it's been very emotional. I've actually enjoyed it. It's probably the wrong word, but I've sort of lost myself in it. It's taken me away from the everyday worries that we all have about paying my bills. And I get that, you know, we are struggling, but I've just really enjoyed it. And I think the papers, for once, every day this weekend, have actually done the right thing. I think the industry, of which I've been part of for 35 years, have done well and covered themselves in glory, doing the right thing.
I think there's a lot of education as to the roles. I mean, for instance, I was reading about Prince Charles yesterday. Biggins, this wouldn't be for you and me, but he gets up, he has a little bit of fruit. He doesn't eat, he goes out at lunchtime and he takes in fresh air.
The walk, doesn't
Yeah, at 5 o'clock he has a finger sandwich, whatever. Yeah. And then he has his main meal at 8:30. Wouldn't be for me, but I mean...
what is a finger sandwich?
He's very disciplined.
He is disciplined, and I think, funnily enough, that's where Camilla comes in, because I think she's also very disciplined. And together they make a fine pair. I have to say, I've never been a fan of his, but this week, listening especially to his speech, I have now been won over. I think he's going to be the most marvellous king we've ever had. And for me to say that a week ago would be impossible for me to say. I mean, I just think he's really taken to it in a wonderful way.
I think it's been impossible for us, whilst he's been the heir apparent for, I think it's been the longest heir apparent we've ever had in the country, to really take him into our hearts in the same way whilst the Queen was alive.
Yes.
Not least because I suppose he's been quite political and all the rest of it. But now that he's there, he is the king, and seeing his reception from people, you can't help but warm to him.
No, and he is brilliantly clever. I mean, you know, I'm sure the input on those speeches was all from him. I mean, I'm sure he had a little bit of help.
Yes.
Well, I'll tell you something I have noticed as a man. I believe he's got a new tailor. His look is significantly different. His suits are very slick. They're not as traditional. They're not like those that his grandfather, great-grandfather would have worn, which he had up until now. But he's looking very contemporary, very, very slick, and very much the part.
I think that when somebody gets the status that they are destined for, in his case, obviously being king, they seem to grow 6 inches. They seem their entire body language and stature seems to change. I might be romanticising it, but it just seemed like a different Charles from, you know, the one who was Prince Charles to the one who's now King Charles. And I keep wanting to say Prince Charles still. But I think, you know, you're all right. His speech, I thought, was incredibly dignified, and it ticked all the right boxes. As you said, Isabel, you know, he deliberately said, I am moving on from some of the things I've done in the past to charity causes, but I think we all appreciate he meant political causes, which have sometimes coloured our opinions of him. And also the fact that he obviously mentioned Harry and Meghan and the olive branch there. But every single paper today has that incredibly sad picture of the Queen's coffin being carried from Balmoral, her home, into Edinburgh. And it's just incredibly emotive. And I keep looking at these pictures, and I keep thinking of those, you know, the 8 young men carrying that coffin, which is made of Scottish royal oak, thinking, what a responsible job. I mean, absolutely terrifying responsibility.
No, but Charles now takes that over, and I saw a headline yesterday which says about the Queen, she knew that keeping her thoughts secret would keep her subjects loyal. Now he will become this, he will be a changed person as well, his role has changed. But I think because this refers to, or this is a lesson for all of us with social media. The trouble is why social media is so divisive is because so many of us state an opinion, whether it's about sport or whether it's about current affairs, whatever it happens to be. And the Queen is absolutely right. If she doesn't complain and doesn't explain, there's no reason to attack her.
That's where she's been so brilliant over these 70 years. I mean, it's extraordinary how she's captured that. And I think he's going to have to go down that route as well. I mean, I don't think he can suddenly start spouting, political views and things because he'll get thrown down.
But I think what's interesting is what the new Prince of Wales will do in that respect.
Yes,
will he learn the lessons of his father? Because he'll have a shorter wait, presumably, than his father did to take over the crown.
You say that, Isabel, you say that, but Charles is 70, what, too?
I know, but if he lived to 100, say...
30 more years.
Yes, but I mean, Charles has waited 73 years.
Yeah, but I'm saying William would by that stage be 70. So it's, honestly, if you ask me, I think the Queen should have retired earlier.
Oh, no.
No? Well, you see, would you want William to be a 70-year-old man? I mean, the country would be rejoicing if William was, to ascend to the throne.
I know, but I think there's a protocol which we have to look to. I mean, I tell you what I thought was wonderful yesterday was when she arrived at Edinburgh, the Princess Royal did a low curtsy.
Oh.
That made me cry because I thought that was unbelievable. She is probably the nearest to her mother than any of them. And it was like seeing the Queen do exactly the same thing, and it was just wonderful.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, which I'm interesting, you might know, you ladies, is how does she manage that car ride, the Princess Royal, without going to the loo?
It's 6 hours, wasn't it? 175 miles, and she was in the car following her mother.
Something, I brought this up yesterday. First of all, those cars would have needed refueled. Secondly, there was an advert for the Undertaker on the stuff.
Yes.
They removed, didn't they?
Yes, but that had to, well, where was that removed? Did they pull in behind a tree?
They had a refreshment break.
Yes.
It's called.
What, at an
did
RAF
they?
station? Or?
I think it was a royal property, or halfway down they had a refreshment
Because
break.
it would not have looked good pulling into a BP petrol station.
Can you imagine?
A hearse. But that's, but I actually didn't think of that.
The royals have had to think about it, and it's been extraordinary the way it's been done so far.
But I think Biggins is right. It was that, for me, it was that moment. Obviously, the moment when you see a loved one's coffin, it really brings it. I think we've all been there. If you lose anyone you love, in particular, it was my dad, you see that coffin and the reality hits home.
It knocks the breath out of you.
It really does, actually, Isabel. And to see Princess Anne, the Princess Royal, drop that, as Biggins has just said, that incredibly deep curtsy to her mother's coffin, it actually really broke my heart almost. It was
Yes,
so
I
sad.
think all of us.
And Anne has been by her mother's side for the whole journey.
Well, literally was there the last few weeks of her life, and when she died as well, of course.
I think this will remind a lot of you where you were when your parents died or how they died, and brings things back. And indeed, to those of you who have lost someone in your family since last week, while all of this has been going on, our condolences to you,
Of course.
as well. We go to the which paper, Dawn, do you want to highlight? What story? There's so many. Here.
There are so many, and I guess we do have to talk about the other main thing that all the papers are covering is the Harry and Meghan issue. The Daily Mail, obviously, and being the Daily Mail, have done a double-page spread on this, and the fact that Harry and Meghan and William and Kate did the walkabout on Saturday, seeing the flowers, greeting well-wishers in Windsor. It's 45 minutes to two couples were together, and you know what, I just think that I really, really hope that those two boys now can reunite. Forgive and forget, it's all very easy to say that, and there is an awful lot of water under that bridge, but when you saw the two of them together, obviously they were close, but they're still miles apart. But to me, I think it signified, hopefully, a start that they can be reunited as brothers, because if you flash back 25 years when those two boys were at their mother's funeral, greeting well-wishers as well, they were so together, they were so protective of one another. And to see what's happened to them now is just incredibly, profoundly sad. It really is.
The trouble is, there's a book coming out, isn't there? That's the real...
This is the issue, isn't it? I mean, you really hope that someone helps Harry see sense and postpones it or cancels.
Or pulps it.
Well, he's done a deal with a book company. He can't turn around and say, you were due to launch in November, we're now not doing that.
I know, Eamonn, but I just think, if they can move on, then that book is hanging over them like a cloud, isn't it? And
if they can put some content in the book about the funeral without it being controversial, that's a way forward.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
You look back to...
Well, except who's going to believe it? There's a fourth person who I haven't talked about there, and it's a lot of people could say it's pure opportunism from her point of view. That's what it's about. It's about reinventing her.
I thought she was very, very nervous.
Yeah, I thought
if
she
you
was
noticed
terrified,
that. When she came out of Windsor, you could tell.
Well, I don't think she knew how she was going to be received by the public, and I think it was very interesting that she was warmly received.
Yeah.
You can't fake that. People responded with smiles.
People are suckers for celebrityhood.
Well,
people forgive everything when they see celebrities.
But, you think about Princess Diana's funeral and how the two sons, their father, are now king, but also the Earl Spencer, her brother, hated each other. Don't
Yes,
forget
no,
the comments that
absolutely,
he
they
made.
did,
All walked shoulder to shoulder behind her hearse. Death is incredibly unifying, and I think, just from Her Majesty's point of view, she would have been thrilled to see the boys side by side.
Oh, I agree.
And so would Diana.
Well,
so let's be
good luck
hopeful.
in thinking like that. I know you always wish
I do.
starriness and nice, but
yes.
The glass is always half full.
well, a lot of people
Unless it's wine,
find
in which case it's
forgiveness a very hard thing to impart, a very hard thing to
What's
grant.
hard, sorry?
Forgiveness.
Forgiveness.
Not
I think
every...
I forgive quite easily.
Yeah.
I think I just hope they can find it in themselves. Those brothers were so close.
Maybe it's a female thing. I don't know. I really want this to work for them now. I mean, I was lucky enough to interview. I've said the story before, but I interviewed Diana back when they were, I think, 5 and 3, and she was saying how protective William was of his baby brother, and she loved it, and she was saying, I just really hope that as they go through life, it's a difficult path ahead of them, that they stay together. So what's happening now is like, oh my God, it is sad.
And you said people have been talking about the death of Her Majesty, thinking about the death of loved ones. I think people also think about the sibling breakdown and think of their own sibling relationships and how, what you could forgive in terms of your own brothers.
But it happens all the time. Look at people die, and then wills are contested by the family, by brothers, sisters. I want that money, I want that house, I want that car, I want that piece of jewellery. So it happens all the time. And the royal family, I think, are just like us.
Yep.
They do everything that we do slightly better.
I think the body language. I think the brothers, maybe there's a chance, but I think the body language between the two women on Saturday.
Yeah, I agree.
I think Kate didn't engage with Meghan at all.
You could almost see them looking at each other, see how many flowers they were carrying. Who was the more popular, I felt.
Wow. But Christopher,
Well, we know which one is the actress. That's the difference.
Yes.
Your views are very welcome. You can get in touch, gbviews@gbnews.uk. You can tweet at gbnews with your views on this.
I wanted to leave, you're talking about wills and what that means in terms of estates and things like that. I wonder what this means in terms of royal households. There's been talk in some of the papers about the Prince and Princess of Wales moving into Windsor Castle once the children are ready, because of course they've already had lots of upheaval. But I was thinking over the weekend, what's going to become of Highgrove? That's of course the King's favourite home. Might he bequeath that to the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, for example?
That's an interesting point. I mean, I think he might. I think, for instance, he's not going to move into Buckingham Palace. I mean, he loves Clarence House.
But he has to. We've all watched The Crown. We all saw how the Duke of Edinburgh was much against moving into Buckingham Palace and was forced to.
No, I don't think he. I don't think he will be forced, because there's no Churchill around to say you've got to do this, you've got to do that. I think they will. He will keep, and I think what he wants to do is open Buckingham Palace to more public things. I mean, he'll go there, he'll have an office there, he'll meet people there, they'll have balls there, they'll have dinners. But I think he will maintain Clarence House, which of course is just a drive down the road. And of course, you're right, what will happen to Highgrove, and also his estate in
Scotland.
In Scotland. I mean, which he loves, and he's changed that whole area brilliantly. The locals absolutely adore him. for what he's done.
Let's
So many
see.
homes, so little time.
Indeed. And there is so little time because, in fairness, whatever we say, how many homes he has and whatever, he's dedicated to the job.
Very much so.
Yes.
You know, what we're reading is we're not even aware of how dedicated King Charles is to the job. So let's now find out from one of you what you think of all of this. We go to Norfolk. Wotton